making of the film Beckett that its two leading actors,
Peter O'Toole, Richard Burton,
both came up with the idea that now was the exact time that the world should see them do their Hamlets, albeit not on stage together. They thought it would add an extra frisson of excitement to the proceedings if both were directed by someone who with strong affiliation to the Prince of Denmark already. Little thought seems to have been given to the details other than that, so a toss of a coin drove the decisions. Peter O'Toole got Laurence Olivier, Richard Burton got to John Gielgud, and we got the motive and the cue. The true-ish story of a fiery-ish relationship that developed between the latter pair during the rehearsals for a play that's well known for being the longest running on the Great White Wave, as for Burton's acceptable performance. The play's title comes from Hamlet, as you might expect.
What would he do? Had he the motive,
The reason and logic that drives an action,
in the cue for
the passion that sees that action through.
passion that I have?
It's a speech that's more widely known for including,
Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I.
now if you knew this already, this inward-focusing play may well appeal to you. If you didn't, perhaps this show shouldn't be on your to-see list this summer. In the early 60s, Burton was at the height of his fame, looking forward to an exciting career. Gielgud was at the end of his fame, he felt, looking back on his slightly precocious early successes. Burton was a celebrity. He had personality, sexuality, and thousands of adoring fans. Gielgud was an actor. He had precision, he had subtlety, he had the respect of many admiring peers. And although Gielgud was here the director, with hundreds of performances of different Hamlets behind him, he was not the box office draw, neither did he pay the wages. It sets off a relationship that promises to be a battle of wills, a clash of personalities, a struggle for power. It promises to be explosive, but it fails to deliver. Yes, we get disagreements, but they are polite. We get moments of tension, but they are no more uncomfortable than at many family Christmases. They have harsh words, but they are not delivered harshly. When Elizabeth Taylor takes John Gielgud for dinner to try and ease the tension, you wonder what tension she's actually trying to ease. It's almost as though we're watching a version of this story that has had the dramatic, exciting bits cut out, as though being ferociously guarded by an overzealous family estate. It promises fireworks, delivers pretty damp squibs. Writer Jack Thorne, whose credits include for the theatre Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and for TV dramas such as This Is England and National Treasure, has here had a number of sources to draw upon to capture the details that fit into his version of the truth. During the rehearsal process, both a stage manager and an actor had the idea that what happened may be interesting enough to capture, so capture it they did, and two separate books have been published on the story already. There are also Gielgud's own diaries, and of course, we must not forget Shakespeare. Jack Thorne certainly does not. Now, it's fair enough to expect to hear lines from Hamlet delivered in a play within a play, where that play is the play that's being delivered within, to set context for the relationship's development. And that is to extend what happens here. The problem lies with Gielgud's direction style, which lacks direction. His vagueness and inability to steer is the cause of the friction that rises between him and Burton and the rest of the cast. He prefers to give 2 or 3 word comments on performances. Very good. Or let's try that again. It means we see huge chunks of Shakespeare just delivered verbatim. Large pieces of the play where they are 80% Shakespeare and 20% Thorne top and tailing it, We end up seeing actors playing actors performing their versions of the characters without the context of the play. It is of limited interest. Sure, if the idea of seeing Hamlet yet again just excites you, then this may be like seeing uninvited, unexpected friends popping in. But if you don't know Hamlet, and if you didn't expect or really want to see Hamlet, you see an awful lot of it tonight. It may leave you feeling a little confused. It certainly distances us from the relationships that we expect to see in this story. This production also sees the very, very welcome return of the maestro of theatre direction that is Sam Mendes, last at the National Theatre to deliver the Lehman Trilogy, which you may have heard of. It's currently enjoying its second West End run, the Gielgud Theatre. A Sam Mendes production comes with high expectations, an almost impossible bar for him to reach. Sadly here, he proves this point, especially within group scenes, particularly parties which take place in Burton and Taylor's hotel honeymoon suite that are clunky and clumsy, as though touched on in the first few days of rehearsal and never revisited. Entrances are staggered, overblocked and too precise. Lines feel as though they have been shared out equally amongst this very much supporting cast, with no real care or attention paid to who says them, as long as everybody has their fair quota of things to say. And don't get me started on the easy option fallback of crowd singing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow." Happens twice here, each time with hips to the side and glasses raised in that Amdram way that we're so used to. Mendes, you can do better. Playing real people from real history, from recent times, is really, really hard. Everybody has their own expectations of what these people were like, even though, for the most part, we only saw them ourselves on stage or screen. It must be an impossible task to get the balance right between impersonation and representation that is going to satisfy absolutely everyone. So, for example, if your Liz Taylor is overpowering with a sexual dominance, then Tuppence Middleton won't be for you. Which is a shame, because Middleton gives a great performance, titillating, almost schoolgirlish impudence. She lights up the stage when she appears in rather too few scenes. Similarly with Burton, maybe the gravelly tones he was so well known for, in your memory, has a particular level, and in which case Johnny Flynn's voice may not have that matching timbre. But he captures both the vulnerability and arrogance that any actor in Burton's position would likely have. Flynn also moves across the stage, leaving behind him pheromones that make it almost impossible for anyone to go to the interval break without feeling just a little moist. The performance, I imagine, will have less criticism is Mark Gatiss's to John Gielgud, but that may be because we know less about John Gielgud as a person than we do about the other two. Burton and Taylor both played at welcoming us into their lives. What do we know about Sir John Gielgud? Gatiss captures his fey mannerisms and lilting musicality to his voice that shows how Gielgud used sexlessness to hide his sexuality from the public. Some may say it's a performance that's very similar to Larry Grayson in ITVX's Nolly. But that's not a bad thing. It seems that Gatiss is becoming the go-to to play repressed homosexuals of the 20th century. Someone somewhere must be developing a working title in Men. And would love to hear Gatiss deliver I'm Free. Put aside your checklists and your comparison tables, and what you see are some very fine moments of acting. There are moments that bring us in, or we're leaning in to hear what is being said. There are moments you could hear a pin drop, such as our attention wrapped by what's going on stage. And in fact, that pin dropping may have the sound of the explosions we were promised, but haven't been delivered. For a play that has such a strong theatrical bent, an episodic structure and grand three-set design give it a rather filmic quality. There are three settings where the majority of the action takes place. Lighting designed by John Clark and set by Ez Devlin. We have the bedroom in the hotel where Liz and Burton are honeymooning during rehearsal that is rich red. It is luxurious, a lustre of lustfulness, that really represents the two of them in the early stages of what turned out to be their first marriage. Contrasting to this, you have Gielgud's most basic digs, cool grey-blue, precise, clean, ordered, as though very thought through. Where these two worlds combine is the clean slate, the white starkness of the rehearsal room. The biggest shock, considering as Devlin is at the helm, is there is no glass box to be seen anywhere. Between scenes, a curtain comes down. The day of rehearsal we are up to is beamed across the top, along with a Hamlet quote that I assume bears a relation to the scene that is to follow. I say assume because there are so many of them that after a while it became rather too smug to be playing this game of Shakespeare bingo. During each mini scene takes place. Now sometimes these are chunks of Hamlet, other times just actors moving from one side of the stage to the other. They are extraneous of the action of the story. They aren't there for creative reasons. They are there for full time through the complex set changes. Following early this year with the production of Phaedra, where we sat through lengthy scene changes that were similar to this. It's becoming a rather tedious approach. The Nationals surely got to realise that for all we are drawn into sumptuous sets, we are pushed away by the length of time it takes to do these scene changes. Someone really must stop this. It's getting boring. Rant over. Overall, there's an air of regality to this production of The Motive in the Queue that feels timely, considering the goings-on just down the road at the National's neighbours at Buckingham Palace. This is partly due to the gathering of theatre royalty both alive and dead. It's also down to the grand spectacle of how it has been packaged and delivered. It's like something out of Hollywood rather than something on the stage. In fact, I wondered if this may be a rather expensive storyboard being drawn up to pitch for the money to make the inevitable film adaptation. A real rehearsal, real actors, real history. Actors, directors, stagehands, crew, lighting designers, and of course critics are likely to lap up its self-referentiality. In fact, sold out about 2/3 before even reaching its opening night. But, like the coronation, it won't be for everyone. For those for whom theatre is an occasional treat, something that should be wrapped up looking beautiful for their entertainment, let's look at the nuts and bolts of theatre in its rehearsal process without really delivering anything dramatic, may feel a bit exclusive, like peering in at a members club where you're not invited. Which group you sit in will likely tell you whether watching the minutiae of a rehearsal taking place is
to be or not to be
missed, or whether for you this play is
to be or not to be
seen. Sorry, but they're doing it. What do you expect?